Do you think that people like busy businessmen talk like that?
Yeah.
Like kind of like Groot? Like where it's like they just say money, money.
Hello and welcome to Cassette Take, where you can eject wherever you want, but please don't forget to rewind. I'm Ethan.
I'm Annmarie.
And Annmarie, what'd we just go see?
I'm so scared because I did not practice this title. Lord of the Rings,
You can do it. You can do it.
the War of Oh no.
Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim.
Yeah, that's what we saw. I got so nervous because I'm like, I need to practice this. And then I did it.
I even think about like, wow, that might be a longer title for, to get out of you, but then you actually were going from like, oh my gosh, wait, should I like put a stop to this? Yes, the new Lord of the Rings movie, first one since
Oh gosh, don't test mine.
Last Hobbit? Probably like what, the Battle of Five Armies?
Yeah, I would say so.
I mean, Rings of Power, that's like a separate entity.
Different medium, it's fine.
But yeah, this one was like the first one from Warner Brothers under the Peter Jackson umbrella, the Wingnut. That I don't know, that title always kind of.
Is it really called Wingnut?
Yeah, his production company is called Wingnut Production.
No way.
Yeah.
That's a genius name. Can we rename Cassette Take?
We're not. No.
Okay, fine.
If you want to get a lovesick like that, that's on you, man.
No.
No, okay, guys, we saw this movie, and it is the first one, I believe, that is in the anime medium.
Yeah.
I'll have to look up the director's name.
Super cool too, because I think Ethan and I are both huge fans of Lord of the Rings. I kind of more The Hobbit. Ethan, I believe you're reading Lord of the Rings right now?
So I've just finished reading The Hobbit.
Oh, congrats!
Thank you. And then I am about 6.5 chapters into The Fellowship of the Ring. But before that, like I've watched 5 of the 6 movies. I love the original, Lord of the Rings trilogy. Love it to death. It's top, 3 movies of all time right there. And then I saw the first 2 Hobbit movies. Have not gotten around to seeing the Battle of the Five Armies yet, but
That's okay. You don't have to.
well, come on, see it off, see it farewell. But I overall I enjoy these Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movies, Hobbit and Lord of the Rings alike. And I was really excited. I was really hyped up, hearing that Peter Jackson was coming back to, be a part of this, produce it, and seeing this part of Lord of the Rings lore that I've never heard of before or really knew too much about, and obviously a lot of other people don't know too much about it, considering it's based on a small little passage in the appendices of Tolkien's work. I believe Return of the King is the appendices of which it's featured. But yeah, it's essentially about Hammer Hand Helm. I believe that's his full name, right? That's a badass name.
So cool.
Was that his first name?
I hope so.
Hammerhand, like, that's awesome. And you come out of the womb with that name? He's like, with the hammer, here's my popcorn bucket. Mother, you will be eating for days. But yeah, no, Brian Cox plays Hammerhand Helm, and damn, does he do a good job of it.
Honestly, all the voice actors in here do such a great job. I also want to say Peter Jackson is like the Denis Villeneuve of the Lord of the Rings universe. I'm so glad he's back and a part of it. I think he should be a part of all Lord of the Rings stuff. But this is so interesting. I didn't know about this till you brought it up. I saw one trailer, but again, I think you sent me that trailer. I don't think I would have seen this trailer otherwise. And this is such a different story than Lord of the Rings, but also so interesting.
Yeah, and I think it still stays true to Tolkien, and his style of storytelling, and kind of keeping things like of a story that we heard before, but like in a world that we can only get so much of. Like, we love this world, Returning to Middle Earth. And that's why I'm not too surprised when I hear a lot of critics coming out of the woodwork saying, wow, this movie is, we've seen this stuff before, it's generic and all that. like, I can see where they're coming from, but at the same time, it's the way that it's executed and told that makes it different, like, within this world of Middle-earth, that really holds it apart from, say, a different story of, like, a daughter of a king that, wants to break free and be their own thing,
Yeah.
We've seen that story done to death, but speaking of, this daughter, Hera, you know, I forget the actress's name, but who plays her, she did a wonderful job.
Yeah, honestly, her and Wolf, who's the antagonist, amazing voice actors, really stand out. I think those were and Hammerhead, of course.
Yeah.
And so, but
Hammerhead.
not Hammerhead. Sorry.
No, I mean, either way, badass name if he had either or.
Yeah.
Terrible time for his mother coming out of the womb again, like, if he had an actual Hammerhead, but,
God.
anyway, it's also directed by, Kenji Kamiya or I'm sorry,
Apologies.
Kamiyama. I butchered that like no one's business, but, I believe, I could be wrong on this, but he, was an artist on, Kiki's Delivery Service. Yeah, or was involved with it. I mean, I could be wrong. He's had plenty of other credits, of which he's been in a far greater capacity, but for me, like, that's my kind of association with something that I've seen that he was involved in, and I love Kiki's Delivery Service.
Yeah, I just saw it this year. So I think this is also to go back to what you said about the critics and their opinions about this. Yes, is it pretty generic story? Of course. Like, I don't know how far and deep you can go with Lord of the Rings, but I think the medium of this is so interesting to do it in it's anime, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I didn't want to be yelled at in the comments about anime versus animation again. But I think having an anime is so unique and different for Lord of the Rings because it portrays stuff a little bit differently than you would see it in live action. I don't think this would work as a live action. I do think it would work as an anime, which we've seen.
I think it would work as a live action, but it's just, whether or not you're willing to put that budget into a movie like that, that's another story. Like, that's why, it would be a good medium to tell this kind of story. One that you don't have probably all your money in the world on it, but like one where you would just put enough to be like, this is a story worth telling. People are gonna, flock to it and see it. As long as we execute it right, more people will follow in word of mouth. The thing is, though, about this medium, I do understand, as someone that has watched quite a bit of anime and is a fan of anime, that there is the occasional, uniqueness of the framing, like different, or not framing, but frame rate, I should say, of certain movements of characters and all that. And I know that anime has a very distinct style of kind of holding on certain frames longer while, like, there's obviously still motion going on, but they linger a bit, which I don't have a problem with. But I noticed that there was like a little bit of a inconsistency with how many frames they were giving certain movements and all that, which I don't mind too much, except it was way too distracting here with certain scenes. Not all of them, but just certain scenes where I'm just like, wow, this, not in a good way. This is very much reminding me of the Legend of Zelda. Wait for it.
Oh no.
Philips CDI movements. More in particular, there's one moment where the father, because it's in the trailer, so you see it, like the father of Wolf, Freyk, I think his name is killed at the very beginning of the movie, and right before that, when he's making a presentation in the throne room that kind of set up that fight that leads to his death, he's like doing all these movements and gestures and all that. And I'm just like, I was expecting to have him like want it, like, how many rupees does it cost for this little trinket or something like that. It was very distracting, and there were some other movements that characters were making throughout the movie, like here and there, that I'm like, oh, that's a little distracting. But again, it's like Lord of the Rings has a history in animation of having weird animation, so I don't know, it kind of works to its benefit, like keeping that line still going, but at the same time, I think there are just certain moments that it was just a little too distracting, and maybe a certain amount of frames were put in a spot that could have been put elsewhere.
Are we talking like, I understand because The Hobbit has the most weirdest framing in the world.
Oh, no, I'm not referring to the frame rate of, like, the live action. I'm talking about, yeah, like, in the 70s or early 80s when they, like, rotoscoped some of those.
Oh,
If you don't, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like, please don't hate me, everyone. I'm not the biggest fan of anime. Please don't hate me, everyone.
Just One Piece.
I do watch One Piece.
And she's enjoying it.
I am enjoying
So don't put her on the spit quite yet.
But I would never go see this movie without Ethan telling me about it, to be totally honest. And yes, anime is very different from stuff I like live action. But I still think it holds up pretty well. I agree. There's certain parts where I'm like, that looks funny, but you kind of just like, I don't let yourself like just go into it and be like, okay, like some parts are gonna look funny, some parts aren't. And so I don't think this is awful though. I really like I don't get the critics' complaints about this. I thought this was fairly well.
Well, full transparency here. This is Anne-Marie's first time seeing it. This is my second viewing.
Yeah.
Seeing the movie. When I first saw it, I honestly was a little disappointed. Not to say it was bad. My impression was it was good, but was nothing more and nothing less. And for the most part, I still kind of have that similar impression, but after seeing it a second time, I do kind of give it a little more benefit. And I would probably bump up my score by a little smidgen.
Yeah.
But if you're expecting that same kind of veracity and like same kind of like adventure that Tolkien stuff is known for from The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, you don't really get too much of that here. You get more of like the action side of things, and it really plays more into that, like staying in one location, but like a bit, a battle,
It doesn't-
grand battle.
It doesn't really yes, it has the label of Lord of the Rings, but it doesn't feel Lord of the Rings at certain points.
Yeah, the only reason that they probably slapped Lord of the Rings on there is just so they can keep the IP.
Why not?
It's like they probably have in the contract somewhere where they have to make a Lord of the Rings movie in order to keep the IP in their possession.
But I would be interested to see if they do more of anime stuff because, like, I talked to Ethan, there's so much of Lord of the Rings, so many stories that we haven't been told yet. And why not? Anime is cheaper than live action and it takes less. And so, not saying go pump and dump and make all these animes. Like, if you have a story and it doesn't work as an anime, why not hold on. If you have a story that doesn't work as live action, why not try it out in this medium?
Yeah, and you don't have to put as many resources and all that. I mean, not to say that you shouldn't make it the best it could possibly be, but it's obviously there's a big cost difference between, say, making another set of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies and making an hour and a half to 2 hours of anime. So I mean, it's a very cost-effective way of continuing on the IP. The question is, though, how many people are going to go flock out and see it?
Yeah.
Because right now, both critics and fans, like, it's pretty split on the overall view of this movie, where people are either like, I mean, it's good, but we've seen this stuff before. Then you got the people that straight up like said, oh man, this is exactly what Tolkien's work needed, like the good old Lord of the Rings revival. This is exactly what I imagine, reading the appendices. And then you got people that are just like, oh, woke Tolkien.
Oh my
And I'm just like, like...
Shove it up your ego.
Shove it up your ego.
I don't know.
Sorry, I had the logistics of how that worked. No. No, it just... There's so many different views on this movie, so I'm very curious to see where it ends up being at the box office.
Yeah, me too. Do you think more IPs should kind of dive into anime, like Dune, Harry Potter, Narnia.
I mean, I think Dune, if I'm not mistaken, is setting up an anime on Max. Could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure I thought I heard that somewhere. And I think that would work brilliantly, especially since Dune derives quite a bit from Eastern, culture.
Yeah.
But yeah, for something like Narnia, I honestly don't know too much about the world of Narnia to really give you a good answer on that, but I think generally for fantasy worlds, the realm of anime and, general animation, I think could benefit from telling more of these stories through that medium. It's again a cost-effective way of telling these stories. It's just sad to see that there's like an inconsistency of box office numbers to really draw more studios' attention to the fact that these movies can be very successful if done properly. But sometimes they don't see that the fact that if like, oh, it's done properly, they just see, oh, it's animation. No, 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 no.
Yeah, and that's super disappointing because I feel like so many of these franchises could do that and make a profit or just make more stories in that world. I know businessmen are like money, 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 money. That's all that matters. But I think there's so many stories in the world of Harry Potter, in the world of Dune, in the world of Narnia, in the world of Lord of the Rings that you can tell through anime.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that people like busy businessmen talk like that?
Yeah.
Like kind of like Groot? Like where it's like they just say money, money, but
But
like that's what goes on in the top headquarters.
hey, Mom.
Money, money, money. Money, 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 money.
Basically.
And that was just to ask one person asking another to get a glass of water in the C-suites.
In the season.
But it this movie though, getting back on track here, I would overall at the end of the day, I do have minor critiques about this movie, and sometimes it is borderline minor to like, okay, this is you can't really ignore this. Like this is a kind of thing that could be fixed. But overall, I did enjoy this movie. I would still say it's a good time. Probably would recommend Lord of the Rings fans and even just general fans of animation because there's so many visually beautiful frames on here that you could just put on your wall and it'd be beautiful. But
Some of the frames I thought were real. Like one of the frames, I'm like, that looks really real, and I know it's not, and my brain was super tricked.
yeah, it's beautiful. But it's just the implementation of those frames together sometimes. That's where the problems kind of arose for me. But overall, again, I enjoyed it. And now, Annmarie, out of 10 Hammer popcorn buckets,
The popcorn bucket trilogy begins again. Again, I would say taking what I love, which I don't love anime. I'm not the biggest Lord of the Rings fans. Taking those into account, I would give this a 7.5, which I still think is really good. I think this is something that people who are storytellers or love to watch stories should go see this because I do think this is a new wave for IPs and franchises and movies in general. And I think this was really interesting. It was exciting to see Lord of the Rings back, and I'm happy that we got to go see it. Again, is there faults in it? Of course, but every movie has faults. But I really enjoyed it.
yeah, and I will give you guys a little disclaimer here that the movie is a much slower pace.
Oh my god, it's too long.
Yeah, it's a bit too long, but I mean, that's not always a problem, like with a slower pace. Like, I think there are some movies where it is kind of refreshing to have that slower pace in the midst of like all this constant, like, oh, this happens, this happens, this happens. Like, you rarely have a time to really take in like certain moments and the levity of it all.
Yeah.
But here, I think it was just there needs to be that fine balance of it, and I feel like there's just gonna be a lot of people are gonna be turned off by when it does lean more into the taking its time kind of thing. So, and I honestly kind of felt victim, and I'm really patient with movies. I was kind of bored here and there, but The second time though, viewing it, I was a little more engaged. So, and my first initial score out of 10 was probably in the range of like a 6.5 to 7
Yeah.
out of 10. But seeing it again and getting a lot more out of it, I'd probably give it more on the 7 to 8 kind of range. So
Not bad.
yeah, so it's still like I had a good time. I'm really glad I saw this movie. And is it gonna be ending up on my list for like best animated movie of the year?
No.
No. But I'm glad I saw it, and maybe I'll watch it again when it comes out on Blu-ray or something. So
Blu-ray.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
we are physical media people here, Annmarie.
Oh,
We
yeah.
are literally called cassette.
Yes, physical media, yes.
You uncultured swine.
Rabbit.
No, but guys, so we just saw Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim. Have you guys seen it? It's been out for a few days now. By this time, it would have gone through. Yeah, by the time of this release of this video, podcast, it's probably been out for its first weekend.
Mhm.
And have you guys seen it? Were you excited about seeing this movie? How high were your expectations? Did they let you down? Did they meet them, or did they exceed them? Whatever your takes are, let us know your takes your takes on our tapes in those comments down below.
It's been a while since we've done it.
It's been a couple weeks. Just go see this movie if you like Lord of the Rings. Because I think you'll definitely get something out of it regardless. But at the same time, this might also be a feeler that Warner Brothers put out to see how desirable is the Lord of the Rings IP right now.
Ooh,
For like new Lord of the Rings content.
good guess.
So if that's the case,
Go see
this
it.
is definitely a movie to take that risk on to go see. Like, you're going to get a good movie out of it, regardless. So I'd say if your dollar speaks for you, let it speak for you here. Monetization always leads to happiness. But hey guys, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Cassette Take. We hope you haven't injected this far into the podcast. Whether you have or haven't, please don't forget to rewind. Oh gosh, I'm a tired boy. Yeah, I've been Ethan.
I've been Annmarie.
And with that,